It's a beautiful day in November 2019 here at the Windsor Locks Senior Center, where Mr. Russell Meade is sharing his life story. Russ has been a resident of Windsor Locks since 1955. Born in East Windsor, Connecticut in 1925, Russ celebrated his 94th birthday this past July. One of 5 children and a family whose heritage included emigrating from Ireland, work on the Windsor Locks Canal, seasonal tobacco farming, and steady work in local factories, Russ was educated through the 10th grade in East Windsor schools, after which Russ decided to enlist in the United States Marine Corps, where his service to his country landed him at Guadalcanal in 1942 for a battle with Japanese forces, a 6-month ordeal in jungles and trenches, which turned out to be a pivotal victory for the Allied forces in the Pacific. Before ending his 4-year enlistment, Russ attained the rank of Staff Sergeant. After the war, Russ later made his home in Windsor Locks, where he and his wife, Catherine, raised their family, which included 2 sons and 1 daughter.
Right.
Russ, let's start today's conversation with a little bit about your parents. Can you tell me about your parents?
Well, my mother was born on Worthington Street in Springfield. My father was born in East Windsor Hill.
What are their names? Their names.
My mother, her maiden name was Marjorie Church, and she had a couple of sisters. Everybody else lived in Hartford, and my mother and father met, and he was working on a tobacco farm in East Windsor Hill, the Maloney Farm. It's on Sullivan Avenue. But then there was no work in the winter, so he got a job in Rockville, the textile factories, and he was a boiler attender for heating and producing hot water, and he worked there just about almost all his life.
Is that James?
No, his name was Cornelius.
Cornelius.
James was his brother,
Okay.
James Meade. My father's name was Cornelius, and they called him Carney. So I don't know
Yeah.
if somebody has ever see that.
Uh-huh. So any special memories of your mom?
She was very pleasant, and she had a sister and a brother who lived in Hartford, and they used to relate with each other, and sometimes they would hop on a bus and come to Rockville where we lived. And then later, after that, I wanted to become an authorized airplane mechanic, so I went to Roosevelt School of Aeronautics in Long Island, and I became a federal licensed airplane A&E mechanic, aircraft and engines.
So this was in the 50s?
This is in the 50s, yes.
Or maybe late 40s. It was
Yeah.
after the war.
It was after the war,
Yeah.
yeah. I was a mechanic
Uh-huh.
during the war in the Marine Corps, among other things.
Yeah.
Carried a rifle also,
Yeah.
and that was more important
Yeah.
than an airplane on Guadalcanal,
Yeah.
having your rifle or something.
Yeah.
But
So when you came home from the war and after your enlistment,
yeah,
is that when you went to Long Island for schooling?
went to Long Island, Roosevelt School of Aeronautics, and I got my federal license, and then the Korean War started to generate a lot of interest, and I did not want to go back into the Marine Corps for many reasons. I didn't want to. So some of the friends around from Rockville who were in the Corps, they were getting recalled, and I didn't want to go back into the Marine Corps. So I joined the Air Guard, which was at Brainerd Field at the time. And about 2 months later, I get a notice that I'm to report to the post office in Hartford. So I'm being recalled back into active duty into the Marine Corps. So I went to the first sergeant with this, and he said, "Do you want to go back?" And I said, "No, I don't." He said, "Okay, I'll take this, then forget about it. You're not going to be going back into the Marine Corps. You're staying with us." So I did.
Good.
But it isn't that I didn't like the Corps, but I didn't want to go back into combat for many reasons. And we were at Brainerd, and then we were getting new airplanes. We were getting an F-86 fighter from North American F-86, the Saberjet. And Brainerd was too short for it, for the runway. They couldn't lengthen it because of the highway is on one side, Connecticut River's on the other. The runway couldn't be extended. So we moved to Bradley. And the F-86s were brought there, and they landed there. They were ferried, brand new from the factory in California. And driving from Rockville to Windsor Locks every day, on a good day it was a nice drive, but sometimes in the winter I was very late because of the condition of the road, and then sometimes I couldn't leave to go home to drive. They're all side roads to get to Rockville. So I would have to stay at Bradley, stay overnight. A lot of other guys did too. So they decided we got to move to Windsor Locks. So we did.
You were married at that time?
We got married. We lived in Rockville, and I enjoyed living in Rockville.
Yeah. Do you recall what year you got married?
No, 1948, I think.
Oh, okay.
In 1948. Yeah. And
so you decided to move to Windsor Locks?
Yeah, we decided to move to Windsor Locks, and my lovely wife agreed, okay, because I said it's a very difficult drive, and every winter it's going to be the same. But we didn't want to rent a place. We were going to buy one, because I had a military approval to buy homes. And then some people who lived here told us about a new development on the other end of Windsor Locks. Jarvis was building a whole group of homes. And so we went up and inquired and got involved in it. And there was a couple of houses that were finished. They were building them build all the base at the time, all the cellars. Then they built the walls. Then the people were all doing the same job. That would be easier for them and have all the same products. And so they had some of them finished that were for sale. And for honorably discharged veterans, it was $12,000, no money down, and $12,000,
Wow.
$65 a month. So I said, okay. We drove over and we looked at them, and those that were finished, there was one that was open for the public, and my wife said, "This is nice." So I said, okay. So we told the guy, we're going to buy this. And we did. We bought it. And we moved in there in just about 1955. And we're still there. I'm still living in the same place.
And where in Windsor Locks is that?
Palm Drive. It's up at the end by Old County Road, you know
Mhm.
Old County Road is?
Yeah,
Ash Drive, you know Ash Drive?
indeed. Yeah.
Well, on the end of Ash Drive, Palm Drive is a dead end. Pine Drive is the next street over. But we live on Pine Drive, Palm Drive.
Mhm.
And
Quiet neighborhood, huh? Quiet neighborhood?
oh yeah, it still is.
Mm-hmm. Nice, nice.
Other than airplanes, because runway 6 and 33,
Yeah,
the approach comes just about over the house, but
yeah. But
I
we
was
don't
in
notice that.
aviation.
They say it's like the rabbits on the airfield. They don't hear it.
No,
Windsor Locks, we don't hear it.
no. So I don't care. The airplane's overhead.
That's right.
And he's doing on a correct approach, good for him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was easy for there sometimes when, before I had a snow plow, I had a shovel. But sometimes in the morning there was so much snow I couldn't drive out. So I would walk out to Old County Road, which was always plowed, and I would walk to the hangar.
Wow.
Yeah. And then at night I would walk back home. It wasn't very far.
Yeah.
It was kind of dangerous at times because there was no sidewalks. But you did it kind of carefully. And
Yeah.
so, but I got to work a lot of times. Half the guys couldn't get there or they were stuck trying to get there. And we were in the north end of Bradley. And we stayed there for many years. And then we moved over to Granby because we got F-100s and the hangar was too small to accommodate them all. So a new hangar was built for us over in East Granby. And it's still there. The guard eventually moved from the Route 75 hangar of Bradley over to the East Granby side. And it was bigger and up to date, and a lot of electronics were installed and all that. So I stayed there until I retired.
Wow. Which was when? Which was when? When did you retire?
I'm trying to think. Retired 1976, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I was 72 when I retired.
Mm-hmm.
It was time for me to quit,
Mm-hmm.
to retire. And so I did.
So that was full-time for you? Full-time work?
Yeah, yeah. It was full-time, and on drill weekends, it was on weekends too.
Yeah.
But the finances were doing good.
Mm-hmm.
Got paid well for it.
And a good education too. I imagine the technology was changing rapidly
Yes.
over those years.
From propeller to
Yeah.
turbine engines. And then we had turboprop airplanes. Not for the squadron, was for the executives.
Mm-hmm.
Turboprops. And DC-3s, did you ever hear of DC-3s?
I remember.
Yeah, we had two DC-3s for people carrying important people
Mm-hmm.
going someplace that they had to go. So I stayed there until then.
So how about telling us a little bit about the family you raised? When was the first one born, and before you got to Windsor Locks, or?
Yes, they were born in Rockville Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
The three sons, my two sons and my lovely daughter,
Mm-hmm.
they were born in Rockville.
Mm-hmm.
But my younger son, he wasn't even walking when we moved to Windsor Locks.
Mm-hmm.
And you're familiar with Rockville Hospital?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the house was George Maxwell's mansion originally. And when he moved out, they took the house over, and the hospital originally was up beyond Union Street. and they moved the hospital down they converted his house into the Rockville Hospital. And my two sons were born there, same room. But then now it's mostly just for executive and paperwork building, the original hospital. Now a new modern day, up-to-date brick hospital been built in the backyard of Maxwell's house.
So they were toddlers and
Yeah.
maybe early kindergarten or first grade by the time you got to Windsor Locks?
Yes, yes.
So they obviously went to the Windsor Locks school system.
The school system now the high school was where the town hall is. And beside it was the grade school. But the grade school's been just demolished when they built and there was one on South Elm Street. Now it's a elderly retirement center. That used to was an 8th grade school, and my son graduated from it. And rather than take a bus, a lot of times he walked to school. And there were sidewalks all the way, so that was all right. And
did they have a sports program then at that time in the schools? Did they have sports programs?
yeah, they did. My older son the grade school was the school beside what now is the town hall. That was the high school, and if you're looking at it, at the left side was an 8th grade school. And the building on the right was a nursing center, nurses center. It wasn't until a short time ago they moved it moved it to Suffield, the nurses building headquarters.
Yeah.
Remember when the nursing center was there?
Yeah. Visiting nurse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
was across what now is the St. Mary's Parish Center. That was where the town hall, that was the town hall.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And the high school was across the street, the grade school, and the nurses' main building was there. So everything started to get too big for what it needed to do, so they built the high school up on the other side of School Street. And the St. Mary's took over the town hall, and the town hall moved into the high school. So, and it worked pretty good for everybody. So where do you want to go from here?
Well, how about doctors in town? Did you, family doctors, were they
Yeah.
local or out of town? Who do you remember?
Dr. Elbergas was the prime house doctor. And his office was well, the buildings are gone now, where the telephone company was right beside it was a big brick building.
On Spring Street?
On Spring Street, down at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And before they tore down the whole front where the theater was, and the National Bank was there.
Yeah, I've seen photographs of the old Main Street.
Yeah.
What do you remember about what businesses were there?
Well, the theater was there, and on the other side of Spring Street was a shoe store, and a drugstore was there. And there was a small shop, grocery shop, that was there. And there was an electronics store there too. There was. Do you remember that?
I do. I
Yeah.
do. Do you remember Marconi's?
Yeah, Marconi's.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were quite a well-known name in town.
Yeah. And then further north, there was an A&P.
Yeah, yeah. The A&P store, yeah. and you parked out in the street
Yeah.
because you went off the sidewalk right into the door of the store.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody parked out in the street.
Did you ever take a train from the old train station?
Sure, sure. The one that's up in the middle of town.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still renovating it or doing something.
Yeah. Where would you take a train ride to back in those days?
We would go to, my son was living in Pennsylvania, where he still is, and we would take the train to Philadelphia.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
That was convenient.
yes, very convenient. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And we went a couple other places where we took the train, and we went to Hartford a couple of times to take it, to hop on the train. Same train station is there today
Mm-hmm.
in Hartford.
Mm-hmm. Union Place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the train station in Windsor Locks downtown, there was no place to park, and people were having a lot of troubles. You know, you got to leave your car for a week someplace, and there's no place to put it. So, but now where they got it, it's kind of inconvenient because there's no covers, but you can park everything up there where the new train stop is. Yeah, on the other side of Main Street. So,
So when you weren't working during those years, I mean, during the 50s, 60s, 70s, before you retired, aside from working, did you and your wife participate in any other activities in town?
I belonged to the American Legion, and she joined the auxiliary, and I'm a disabled war veteran, and they help you a lot of times when you're having troubles with the government's procedures and that. So I joined the DAV, and they always are a big help to you. And so, but I was going to join the VFW, but they had the same meetings, same time as the American Legion. So I didn't join the VFW, I belonged to the Legion, and was active in it. And at one point, I forget the year, I was the patrol leader in the Memorial Day Parade. And then the next election, I was elected commander of the Gente Viola Post.
Yeah.
So I was the American Legion commander for a year. Yeah.
Would that have been in the 1960s?
60s, yeah, around there.
And where did the Legion meet in those days? Did you have?
The Gente Viola Post in that big gray building on the corner of Elm Street and Main Street.
Memorial Hall.
Memorial Hall, yeah.
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 And then later on, they built another hall for the American Legion.
Yes, on Elm Street. But it was too much to maintain, to try to keep up, and the outside lawn and everything. So they moved back. They stayed there for a couple of years. Then they moved back to Memorial Hall, and they're still there.
Yeah.
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 And it's adequate parking.
Oh yeah.
The only problem to go up to the meeting room or the large room is a big, have you ever been there?
Oh yes.
Or the big circular staircase.
Yeah.
And as guys grew older, a lot of them can't go up there and they don't want to come down, something like that. Yeah, I know guys who will go into the building and have a small meeting downstairs, but they can't go upstairs because they can't come down safely.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned the Memorial Day Parade. Do Do you remember the route, the street route?
Yeah, down Main Street.
Just down Main?
It was formed up at the other end. Remember where Dr. Cornelia had his office?
Whereabouts was that?
Right about there. And the band would start there, and I would be out in the front. And we'd start the parade there, go down and around the corner, and down onto Main Street. And the whole parade would walk down to Memorial Hall. Then we would continue to go up to the cemetery. Then we went to St. Mary's Cemetery. It was those who wanted to go.
Yeah.
And it was difficult with cars because you couldn't park in the road. And I guess a lot of guys didn't want to park all the way up at the other end of the cemetery and then walk all the way down where the ceremony was held. So, but anyway, that's where we still go today on Memorial Day to both cemeteries. The one that's up further, up Main Street on the right-hand side. Yeah, and it's big.
Grove Cemetery?
The Grove Cemetery, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've been in recent Memorial Day parades? Recently?
Maybe 5 years ago. I've stopped now. I go down, I have my uniform on, and I go down, but I don't go into the parade. I'm just there at the end for the celebration
At the Memorial Hall?
at Memorial Hall. And then everybody, after a while, the VFW opens their place and we all go to the VFW hall up Main Street.
Fairview.
Fairview
Yeah,
Street,
off of
yeah.
North Main there.
It's a dead end up
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they have the parades every year.
Great tradition.
Yeah. It's good to be part of an organization like that you can relate to the other people that are there with you, rather than being someplace on Memorial Day or whatever, and nobody besides you has ever been in the military.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'm not going to be in the parade, so I bring a lawn chair and I sit out in front of St. Mary's, and the parade goes by down to goes down Spring Street to Main Street.
Yeah.
And then I go from there. I go to Memorial Hall.
Yeah.
Do you know Ed Sabatka?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His wife just recently had a heart operation.
Yeah.
She had a valve, something done, just a few days ago.
Yeah.
And the last time I saw her, she seemed to be all right. She didn't say there's anything wrong.
Well, I saw Ed at the Veterans Day luncheon. You were
Oh,
there.
yeah?
Were you at the Veterans Day
Yes.
luncheon?
Yes,
Do you go every year?
yeah, I was there. I don't remember seeing you. Were you?
Well, I was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, tell me about the luncheons, the Veterans Day celebrations in town.
It's good. They have a structure made up for the intents of everybody, which really doesn't apply to everybody. For the first selectman and others to get up and give a talk, be all right to say, you know, welcome here and all that, and then sit down and somebody else get up, rather than have all of them giving long talks.
Yeah.
After you ate, you're sitting there,
Yeah.
because it's not even proper to get up
Yeah.
to go to the bathroom
Yeah.
with them up there in front of the microphone.
Well, they're probably not the only ones that want to express their gratitude to veterans.
Yeah,
There's probably a long line of people that would like to do
Yeah.
that too.
yeah, yeah,
Windsor Locks, I think, has always done a great job of
Yeah,
respecting and honoring veterans.
yeah. And the senior center gave me a nice pillow with the Marine Corps emblem all on the outside. And she called me, gee, what you wonder what she wants? And she hands me this. And I said, oh, wow, hey, this is great. Where'd you get this? I said, we made it for you. We knew you were coming. Okay,
That's nice.
great. So, and I use it to this day.
Wonderful.
It's very nice, and it's big, and it's fluffy, with the Marine Corps emblem on the front.
Does it have the motto?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember seeing it?
I've seen the emblem, sure. I haven't
Yeah.
seen your pillow.
Did you see the pillow that was there?
No.
No?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, they used to have the Veterans Day celebration here at the Senior Center, but now they have it out at St. Robert's
Yes.
Hall, Parish Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it because it's bigger?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. The crowd keeps getting bigger every year.
Yeah. I've gone to the Veterans Day celebrations here, and the room, they would have a portable viewing stand, and they couldn't accomplish everybody who wanted to go sit on it,
Right.
and everybody was kind of packed in chairs and tables, yeah. But we were there, we enjoyed it,
That's good.
other guys. But St. Mary's Hall is bigger to accommodate more people more comfortably and more easily, so. It's all right, and the parking is easy, so.
Anything you want to talk about in terms of churches that you would maybe belong to, or?
I belong to my grandparents.
Same church?
My grandfather was one of the people who helped construct St. Mary's.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Your grandfather?
my grandfather, and a horse and wagon brought was in 1860 something, and they brought all the building gear on a wagon to the area where the church was going to be built, and they unhooked the horses and took the horse off to wet the horses to go get something else, and they left this great big thing there all full of all these
Building
construction
materials.
projects.
Yeah.
But nothing until then was built other than facing the Connecticut River. So because if you face it, you could see Indians if they're coming up to steal things. But the church equipment, all the building equipment, all of it just about, was in wagons with horses. And they got it pointing the other way, because that's where the guy that was driving the horses had them stop. They unhooked it and went off with the horses, and just the wagon was there with everything on it. So the guys took it off and started building the church, and it's facing the other way. And if you look all around there, most of the buildings are all facing the river, except the ones that are built along after the church. The priest after St. Mary's was designated, the third house is where the priest used to come by a horse, or I think maybe a train, and then a horse to the third house up, and that's where he would stay, because no priest was assigned to St. Mary's. And then he would get on his horse and go back to Boston, and go, however.
Now, is this, are you recalling this from stories your grandfather shared with you, or do you remember that?
No, I read about it. I don't remember him as well as I do my grandmother. yeah, Grandma Meade, she was very, very pleasant with children. She wanted to impress them, you know, keep them quiet
Yeah,
and keep them safe.
yeah.
Because where we lived in East Windsor Hill, uh, it, it was, originally it was the Hartford Seminary. There were two great big brick buildings. The seminary was facing them. The building on the left was the seminary building. The one on the right was the dormitories. And they moved the whole operation to Hartford, and they left the buildings empty. And we moved into the building on the my grandparents moved into the building on the right. That was the dormitory, and the other half of it was empty. So we moved into the other side of the building.
Those
We
buildings
stayed
still
there.
there? Those buildings are still there?
No, that the the student building is I think that's gone, but the other one is still there.
Oh.
They took the other one down.
So back to Windsor Locks, and at the point where you decided to retire, which I think you said was around 1976 or so,
Yeah.
that opened a new chapter in your life,
Yeah.
retirement.
Yeah.
Want to tell me a little bit about your retirement? What you've been doing during that time, and what any of your interests or hobbies?
I would take care of the lawn, and
Mhm.
like even this time of year, and nobody had somebody come to do it. You did it yourself, and didn't have a snow blower. Had a couple of shovels, but the driveways weren't paved at that time. They were all gravel,
Mhm.
and there was no mail delivered. Along Old County Road was a whole row of poles, and there was a mailbox on top of one, and that's where one of the boxes was for your house, and that's where the mail was left. There was no delivery to houses.
Mm.
When eventually they did,
Mhm.
they took all the poles down, and little things like that, where
Yeah.
they changed things for everybody. And then they paved, or they gave the opportunity to come, and they're gonna, a few years later, they would pave your driveway, because the gravel was getting spread all over everything.
Mhm.
We stuck on the wheels, you know, down the street, everything else. But that's the way things were. So,
So I know that you spend some of your time in retirement visiting the Windsor Lock Senior Center, right?
yes, but it wasn't here, I don't
No,
think.
no.
No, it wasn't. This was a fire department. And I don't know, there was one section of it was a jail. As you look at the building from the street, on the right, that was the police station, and the fire station and the fire department was on the left. And the building, there's part of the building on the right was a jail. There were a couple of guys, they were caught drunk, and they were put into jail, and it was here, this building. So,
So how about any sporting activities, hobbies like fishing or outdoor activities that you enjoyed in your retirement?
no, I have an antique automobile.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I have a 1950 Singer Roadster. It's an English car. Steering wheel's on the right, you shift with your left hand.
What year is it?
It's a 1950.
You still have it?
Yeah, oh yeah, still got it.
So you've worked on it?
I don't have to work on it. I got it. It's running in prime condition, but I keep tinkering with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, change the oil and filter, and the brakes were all mechanical. Check that all the pivot points and everything. And I had a 1927 Buick that I kept there too, and I kept that all in good condition. And then eventually, my lovely wife wanted her own car, because when I would go to work, she couldn't go to the store to get anything, because there wasn't any near us then. So she wanted her own car. So we went and bought her own car.
And
Then she got a job at the school on South School.
Mm-hmm.
She worked there for a few years. She was in the kitchen
Mm-hmm.
and a substitute teacher.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and I was at home most of the time when I was retired,
Yeah.
tinkering with, there was always something to do with one of the cars, or do something outdoors in the
Yeah.
lawn
Yeah.
and in the house. And the upstairs was just vacant. So then we got a company to come to build on upstairs, lift up the roof
Oh, yes.
and build the whole inside. And that worked out just right. Then I have my children were able to get their own rooms.
Nice.
So that worked out pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other houses, they did the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Raise the roof.
You raise the roof,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
in the back, then build the rooms on the inside.
So now, the kids, your children, they've given you grandchildren?
My grandchildren, some of them live, one of them lives in Suffield,
Mm-hmm.
but the rest of them all live someplace else.
How many grandchildren do you have?
Well, golly, I'll have to count. I got 4. Derek and Ron and Steve, because they all live in, not all of them, but
Yeah.
my one grandson lives in, he wanted to stay in this area, so he bought a nice house in Suffield.
Nice.
My other grandson lives in Tampa, Florida. And my oldest son lives on the outskirts of Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
He's a convert driver for the Veterans Administration.
Wow. Wow.
And he drives veterans to hospital visits and all that.
Yeah. Well, now I won't ask you how many great-grandchildren you have, but do you have any?
I've got 3 or 4 grandchildren, great-grandchildren.
Great-grandchildren. Wonderful.
Great-grandchildren,
Wonderful.
My grandson has 2 boys in Tampa, and I have another grandson that lives in Coral Springs, Florida.
Yeah. I hope you get down to visit them sometimes, do you?
Once in a while we do.
Good, good.
They come up here more than we go down
Yeah,
there.
good. Now, you mentioned to me earlier that one of your pleasures is reading poetry.
Yes.
Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely, though rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. Sometimes too hot, the eye of heaven shines a line to time thou owest. May thy eternal beauty ne'er fade, nor lose the gleam thou owest. For as long as men can breathe, and eyes can see, so long live this, and may this bring long life to thee. You ever read that?
Beautiful, beautiful.
It's the second scene of the second act of Romeo and Juliet.
Mm.
Then the other is hark, what light through yonder window breaks. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Is the first and second scenes of Romeo and Juliet.
So you read Shakespeare,
I like to read Shakespeare.
and you memorize a little bit too.
And, yeah, it's easy to remember something that you enjoy reading. Yeah.
When did you develop that interest?
When I was in high school,
Oh,
when we had a period in English of just poetry, reading it, and read a little bit of it, and then you close it, and they ask you to recite some parts of it that you read. So when you read, you imbibed it into your brain. You know, like I've gone to the Emily Dickinson home. Have you ever been there?
up in Northampton?
Northampton?
Northampton,
Yeah.
yes.
I've been up there a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I was there quite a while. I walk a lot, and so I decided to go out for a walk to see the scenery. And I walked down around the corner and up, down another sidewalk. There's a great big cemetery. So I was walking by it. Now look, there's her gravestone. Emily Dickinson's.
Yeah. Have you read some of her work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Her house is still a museum
Yeah.
where she lived,
Mm-hmm.
but she never married. She lived there. Her brother lived right next door to her, and there's a path still to this day through the 2 yards where she used to walk to go to his house
Mm-hmm.
and go back to her own house.
Have you ever tried your own hand at writing poetry?
No, not really.
No.
I've read different poems, and I would have utilized different terms,
Mm.
but whatever the person who wrote it, that's what they have in their mind, well, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So. So I don't.
Well, you're very talented and creative to be able to memorize such long passages from Shakespeare.
Yeah, I can remember them. Yeah. I enjoy reading. I enjoy reading poetry. I have books of poetry. And I read some in Latin, because I studied Latin in school. I took it as I needed another subject. Took math, science, algebra, but I needed 4. Geez, I don't know what other subject to take.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked, Latin.
Can you recite any Latin?
I can, but it's difficult because the Webster English Dictionary has 26,000 words. The Latin dictionary to English has 9,000 words.
Mm.
Because when it ceased to be an accepted language, it never progressed. The English is progressing to this day.
Mm. New words every day.
Words are added with different meanings,
Mm-hmm.
but the Latin language has 9,000 words from 1700 is when it ceased, and there's no other additions to it.
Mm.
But that's what it is, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I enjoy it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So did you you went to high school?
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you all about my story later.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, well, we've kind of talked about the full circle of your life. Anything that else you'd like to talk about?
well, when I was in mechanics training school in the Marine Corps at the Jacksonville Naval Air Station, we were there for 7 months, and it was very interesting. School was 8 to 3 every day, And Saturday morning from 8 to 12 was an exam for everything that you were exposed to during the week.
Wow.
And if you failed it, you went back one class. So,
You obviously never failed one.
no, I never did.
I didn't think so.
I spent more time reading.
Yeah.
Other guys would go to the PX or something, you know, afterwards, or go to the club,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
I wasn't old enough. You had to be 21 to drink alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of us weren't 21,
Mm-hmm.
so we couldn't. You could go in and sit and have something to eat, but you couldn't sit at the bar and eat, or you couldn't sit at the bar and you couldn't buy anything alcohol. And they were very strict about it.
Wow.
So, but that's the way it was. I didn't care. That's what the law is. That's what we could do. We do.
Mm-hmm. Well, Russ, I'm very grateful for your time.
Very good.
And very impressed and
Yeah.
entertained and inspired
Yeah.
by your life story.
Do you know where First Street is?
Yes, I do.
There's, there's a house now next to the corner where there's a dark colored house. There's a couple of them, but the first one, they're tall, slender. My grandfather built that. That's where he lived. And other people built the same type of houses.
Ah.
But there was they left a big space for, I don't know if it was for horse and wagons or what,
Mhm.
but not utilized there anymore. So somebody built a modern day house between their house and the street now.
Do you remember going into that house when you were a child?
I think we did, because they used to come to St. Mary's Church,
Mm-hmm.
and they walked.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes my mother and I would go to their house just to visit.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And it's still there.
Yeah, they're still there. It's still there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's still the same color.
Yeah.
And it's got like the covers are squares.
Yeah. Maybe you could go. Maybe you can get a tour someday.
Yeah, something.
It'd be nice to.
And the house beside them was built same style, same
Yeah.
type,
Yeah.
3 stories,
Yeah. That's
but
a
it's
great,
narrow.
That's a great memory.
Yeah,
I'm sure a lot has changed inside it, but
Oh, yeah.
there might be something you'd recall.
yeah. But the people that live there, they like it.
Yeah.
Who live there now?
Terrific.
You know, have to remember
Have you ever met them?
I've never been in it. I was outside talking to the people.
Oh, you should
That's
invite
all.
yourself in. You
But
should.
like when we lived in South Windsor, there was no running water inside the house. It was a hand pump,
Yeah.
and there was a hand pump outdoors if you needed more water. And the bathroom was out in the back. It was in a wooden building,
Mm-hmm. Outhouse?
an outhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. None of them. There's no running water inside houses.
Yeah.
No sinks.
Yeah.
No water.
Well-
Other than a pump into a pail. That's where
Well, there's a lot of things to miss about the old days, but that's
Yeah.
probably not one of them, especially on a cold day.
no.
All right, Russ. Well, listen, we're going to wrap up here, so I want to thank
Hey,
you
very
again.
good.
This was a great
I enjoyed
pleasure.
talking to you.
A real honor. Thank
Yeah.
you.
See, it is. Do you dictate here in the senior center in any respect?
Let me just figure out how we turn this off. Here we go. That's
Something
it.
like your sister?
I think it's off now. We're going to wait for her to tell us if it is. What was that you asked me? Do I What was that last question?
Are you an official?
No,
here in-
no,
No?
no. Just was asked, I volunteered to participate in this project.
Oh,
Yep. And
now,
you
how
were-
many guys are you gonna use?
I don't know. Emery's comes up with the list. She mentioned you were number one. You were number one. So,
For some
which I
reason-
also thank you for, because that helps me plan the next interviews. You know.
Okay,
So
what's all this?
I don't know. Whoever's office this is.
Season,
At,
season 11. Main Street. Main Street series.
Hmm.
Oh, these are movies.
Oh, movies.
Yeah.
I see.
There's no theater there anymore.
No. Gee, I was going. I probably should have asked you a little bit more about the Rialto Theater. You remember that, don't you?
I remember it.
Did you go much?
I don't remember about going there very much.
Yeah.
No, no, I don't.
I do. Of course, you know, I'm 65. So in the 1960s, I was 10 years old, 10 to about starting into my teens.
Yeah,
So I do remember going down to the Rialto Theater for the movies,
yeah.
westerns. I remember westerns
Yeah.
a lot.
And the bank was
No,
right.
the
Bank was
Northern
right beside it.
Connecticut National Bank.
North
Was
National
that the name of it?
Yeah.
National Bank, we used
Yeah.
to call it.
Bob Taravello
Yeah.
was the finance advisor, the
Yeah.
finance director or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I know Margaret quite well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tarabella.
Margaret Taravello. She and
Yeah.
I, Bob and I were good friends.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Because he was in the guard.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Do you know, you must know Joe Valbona.
Joe Valbona.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 He and his son Michael and I are good friends.
Oh yeah.
I was just talking to him on the phone the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
And I know Joe. Joe was from my old neighborhood.
I know
off
Joe
of West Street.
Valbona.
Yeah.
Where do you live in Windsor Locks?
No, I live in Granby now, but I
Okay.
grew up on West Street in Windsor.
On
Locks.
West Street?
On West Street.
That's
yeah.
it's kind of a short street.
It goes from North Street to Elm Street.
Elm Street. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bob Shea lives there.
Bob Shea.
Yeah.
I don't know whereabouts. I lived up by North Street, that end of West Street.
Oh. West Street. That's the street you're going up either Spring Street or Elm Street.
Yeah.
It's
In between there.
goes in between the two of them.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it down the bottom after you go by St. Mary's and you go down to the bottom in that West Street, you turn on the left,
Well, you mentioned St. Mary's, the church.
St. Mary's Church,
Okay,
and
that's
you
on
go
Spring.
up Spring Street
Go up Spring.
and you go down and there's a traffic light
Yeah.
on that West Street.
Both ways is West
Yeah,
Street.
West
Both
Street
ways.
is
going
both
towards
ways.
Elm Street if you're
Yeah.
taking a left, and going towards North Street if you take a right.
Yeah.
And I lived up going towards North Street.
Oh yeah?
Do you know where the Noden Reed
You're not
house
in the meat
is?
farm.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I lived just a little bit past
Oh,
that.
yeah?
Yeah.
Because down on the corner, the police chief lived there.
Witten. Henry Witten.
Yeah. Yeah, Police Chief Witten.
Witten. Yeah.
He lived on the corner.
of Grove and West.
And he died there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wasn't retired very long
Right.
when nobody saw him for a couple of days and they
Yeah.
thought, gee, good to see him.
Mm.
So they went in, found he was in bed and he was dead.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
There are
Chief
worse
Witten.
ways to go.
It was only a couple of weeks
Yeah.
since he retired.
Yeah.
that
That's
he
sad.
lived. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Hey,
Russ,
thanks a lot. I appreciate
let's
that.
go find Anne-Marie and let her know we
Okay.
achieved our mission. Mission attained, right? Mission accomplished. She's over here.
She's where?
She would be in there.
She's in here?
Yep.
No, you're still recording.
Are you kidding? Well, what's this off button?
I don't know, but it's right here.